Rushmore. My name is Josh, and I am here today with Mike in the room, and Aaron via Discord.
Hello.
Hello, Aaron. How are you?
All right.
How's space? Did we
Why
do that last?
I'm in space. I don't understand.
Did we do that last time? Because it's like, who else do you video chat with but the guys in space?
That's all you ever
That's
would
all
ever
it's
use.
for.
Yeah, it's all it's for. It's
Yeah.
all you would ever use it for.
That's all anybody's ever done.
Yeah. Yeah. So Aaron is at the International Space Station. Any
This
minute
game's
now.
up here.
Yep. Any minute now, debris is going to destroy it, and he's going to be floating around in space, a la Sandra Bullock,
Mm-hmm.
and George Clooney will appear to him and guide him to Earth.
Now you're just spoiling the movie. Is that what you're doing?
What movie?
The
This actually will happen.
documentary of Sandra Bullock's harrowing.
Sandra Bullock.
Well, it's not Sandra
I
Bullock.
am Josh Bott.
It's not Sandra Bullock. She's an actress.
What?
This is Sandra Bullock,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the astronaut.
Yeah, the famous astronaut.
Yeah.
Give it up, Josh.
And George Clooney.
Give it up.
Video games. We've been playing video games. It's 1 week till Thanksgiving. And
Less than 1 week.
it is less than 1 week till Thanksgiving. And there's been a lot of good games to be thankful for. We've played a
Sure.
few. I think we're mostly going to be talking about some good ones, actually. You know what's interesting, Aaron? You're going to talk about Final Fantasy. Is that right?
Yep, Final Fantasy 15.
That one was not up for like Game of the Year or anything, was it?
Well, it depends on the outlet. They can decide where they want to have their cutoff.
Yeah.
The Game Awards that Jeff Keighley does, I think the cutoff is sometime in November, and it didn't make the cut last year, so it's nominated this year. I think it's only nominated for one thing. I forget what it is.
Probably music.
Could be.
I don't think it is.
Really? Man, the game has such a good soundtrack.
It's got good music.
Take a look.
It's got good music, but it's interesting having to decide. The same thing with movies, where it's like, oh, this movie came out last year.
I mean,
We're not going to think about it.
It affected us too because it didn't make any of our top 5, and I think it would have if we had more time to play it. Because by the time we
Yeah.
did our Game of the Year discussion, most of us had only started it or we were kind of midway through.
Man, that's the kind of game you have to beat.
Yes.
Because the atmosphere goes all the way through. And when you first start it, you're like, it's kind of fun to do things, but the story's kind of weird. And then you get to the end, you're like, the story's great. Story's great.
It is nominated for Best Role-Playing Game against Divinity Original Sin 2,
Oh, no.
Oh no.
South Park Fractured Butthole,
Also, oh, no.
Nier Automata,
Oh geez, it's not winning.
and Persona 5.
Oh, no.
Nope.
That's a stacked field.
Yep.
Oh, well, Final Fantasy 15, you were well loved.
And if you go by critical reviews, Divinity is going to take it.
Oh, yeah, better. So, Aaron, how's it going?
You already asked me that.
Oh, yeah. Well, tell me about your experiences, your new experiences with Final Fantasy 15.
They put out an expansion, a multiplayer expansion called Final Fantasy 15 Comrades. It's a multiplayer mode where you create an avatar and you can go on missions. There's a point in the game where there's sort of a gap in time, and this takes place during that period. So you go to the city with the power plant. I forget what it's called. Is it Stalin?
Maybe. I know it starts with an L. I was going to
Yeah,
say
the-
Lindbergh.
The kind of Mexico themed one or his.
So
Yeah.
the fat dude from Final Fantasy 15 Kingsglaive,
Oh yeah. That
he
movie.
escorts you to that town, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're all holed up here, and we're doing our best to gain. I think it's like shards of I don't know, some sort of crystal that they use to maintain power. And so, with your avatar, you go in and undertake missions and gain like almost like a power currency. It's something you use to, as you complete missions, to invest in certain upgrades for the town. And so you have like a tree that you can go down that you are putting your power points into. And it unlocks other quests, other hunts, or other shops that you can use. And so you undertake these quests, and it's you and 3 other players, or you can just fill it with AI partners. And you undertake these quests that are just basically warping you to some place on the map and fight the certain number of things, beasts, and maybe there's a boss beast. And when you finish it, it takes you back to like a camp, and you have a little. You can pick up food items, ingredients, and everyone can hold one ingredient. And at the end of the mission, they take everyone's ingredients together, combined with some other ingredients, I think, and they make a dish that everyone shares, and it, gives you different boosts and buffs.
That game's obsession with food.
Yeah, it's the real deal.
It sounds cool. It makes that game even weirder because that gap seemed like it was like the gap that you're talking about in time is definitely a point where a lot of people are like, but what happened? Because some stuff went down and you're like, I really want to know. And it's kind of weird that you play a single player game. Like if you were new to this game and you had all the DLC and you were actually to play all the thing like in the correct order, you'd be playing this single player game for like 30 or 40 hours or whatever. And then all of a sudden you'd go jump into this multiplayer thing to kind of fill in the gap. And then I guess when you were done with that, you'd go and kind of finish out the game.
Do you actually feel? Do you feel like it actually tells a story during that gap, or just
no?
That's where it sits itself.
Yeah, not really. It's basically what I told you is the entirety of what I've gathered.
Yeah.
So far, I don't know what happens as you put more power into the city and unlock further down the tree, but I don't see it having like a prolonged narrative or anything.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this isn't necessarily what I would want to fill that gap. Like I would want later on more towards where you come out the other side of that time gap to say, here's where everything landed, rather than saying this is where everything started to go south.
Oh, that's what makes it so weird. The whole game is weird though.
Yeah.
In kind of a lovable way, but like, man, when you really take a step back and kind of look at it, it's a strange product.
So do you like it? Is it good?
It's okay. I mean, imagine Final Fantasy 15 without any story, really.
Okay, I can imagine that.
You click on one of those hunts, and instead of traversing the world, the open world, it warps you to the point where they are, and then you fight them all, and then you go through a loading screen and go back to town. That's it.
Well, I mean, I can definitely imagine a Final Fantasy 15 without a story.
I can't imagine Final Fantasy 15 without traversal. Is pretty much my concern here. Like 90% of that game is making sure that you're getting the most out of your travel, really. And to say, hey, go in there and fight. You love this fighting system. You're like, the fighting system's all right, but it's not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was serviceable. I mean, I was pretty over it by the end, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. When did that come out?
It came out last Tuesday, I think.
Did they ever fix the camera in that game? when you're in combat, or is it still a mess? Because that was like my biggest thing with combat is, especially when you were in like forested areas, like the camera would be swinging around and then like this tree would be blocking your view, and it's like, what the heck is this? I don't know what's going on.
I didn't notice anything, but I doubt they did anything to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always okay with the camera, but I always had it as far out as possible 100% of the time.
Yeah, so did I, but it still could be a pain.
I also didn't fight a whole lot. Maybe that's...
You're a very peaceful person.
Well, I was very tactical. My takedowns.
I watched Josh play this game a little bit, and I'm pretty sure you just sat in the car and had it drive around.
Hey, I
for
gained
pretty
stuff.
much most of the time you were playing.
There was a large percentage of time. I didn't like warping because it took just as long to wait in the car and drive that it did to reload the stage.
Not really.
Loading in that game.
It was pretty bad.
It was bad.
Yeah. Has they fixed that at all? Like
And
this?
There's long loading times in between missions in this mode.
Yeah. This is probably the most flawed game that I love to play. Or loved playing.
Yeah.
Definitely flawed.
It definitely flawed, but it's like you said, there's just a something to it.
It's just so charming.
It is. There's like a heart to it. Like there's an earnestness to it that I just couldn't help resist. But actually really liking the end product. And there's a lot of interesting things about it too. Like I really like the world. And I think like if you take the plot and just kind of like distill it down, it's actually a pretty cool plot. It's just not very well executed.
Yeah, well, not very well told.
Yeah,
because it's there, it gets executed, but it's like, wait a minute, what happened?
And it seems like they constantly patch in something where it's like, oh, well, here's this, and that's gonna explain this problem people have with plot.
Yeah.
And then DLC comes out, like episode Ignis that's coming out in the future is addressing like a huge problem people have with the story regarding like motivations of a character.
Yeah, and the fate of a character, I'm sure.
But yeah, it's weird. They're doing weird stuff to this game.
Yeah, and it almost feels like they're not like solving a problem. It feels like this is a problem that they solved in their heads a long time ago. And then they were like, well, we can't get to it, but know that story-wise, this is what happens, folks. And then they were like, don't tell the people out there, though. They don't need to know.
I admire their dedication to it, though, because they've done a lot of work to optimize, frame rate, and the DLCs I think are pretty fair. Like they're cheap, they're like $5.
Oh yeah,
which is nice. So we gotta applaud them for that. It's better than they just came out with it with all of its flaws and the way Chapter 13 was, and then just be like, well, that's what it is. But like Square, I mean, for all the bad things that they do and their kind of incompetence, they do take a lot of pride in their Final Fantasy mainline series, as documented with Final Fantasy 14, and they have like put their best foot forward, I think, with 15 on trying to address some of this stuff. Again, clumsily handled in many ways, but it's nice to see that they didn't just throw it to the wolves and go on to the next thing.
Yeah, it was weird because I was just about to say I recommend everybody play it, and then I thought about that and I was like, no, I guess I don't. But then I tried to think of like who I would recommend this to, and I can't figure out who that is.
The most diehard of Final Fantasy fans is who I would recommend it to.
No, it's not even that, because I love this game. It's got something.
I would recommend it to
weirdos.
Anyone that is interested in an action RPG that the main focus centers around 4 pretty dudes and their friendship.
Yeah. I mean, it is that, what did I used to call this?
It's a boy band simulator?
No. I don't like the boy band term, but I like the, because it's a kind of movie. It's like a travel movie.
It's the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but
no,
dudes.
because they split up. They're not together. What is it called? When like a bunch of friends get together and they travel. What is that movie?
Road Trip.
Road Trip. It's like a road trip movie.
Well, yeah, that it is.
Get in the car. Zany things happen.
Bros on the Road. That's what it should have been called.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
that is the best part of the game.
Yeah,
It is, yeah.
It is 100%. The relationship before those four guys is
Yeah,
the greatest part. That and
I did like the villain.
well, that and the area atmosphere. Like
Yes.
driving around when it starts to rain, it starts
Yeah.
to rain. When it starts to get dark, it starts to get dark. Like you can feel all those
Yes.
things.
That's also very true.
Which is not necessarily true in some other games. Some other games make it feel very abrupt when those things happen. And in Final Fantasy 15 just made it feel natural. Like you were there. This is actually something that's happening to you. So I can applaud them for that. Aaron, what else have you been putting forward?
I did play a little bit of Wolfenstein: The New Order, the original game that came out
Yes,
a couple years ago.
I noticed as I was playing my game that I'll talk about in a minute here that you were on there, and I was like, at first I thought it was New Colossus, and I was like, whoa, he skipped right to New Colossus. Did he have to find out what all the zaniness is? Impressions?
It's really brutal.
Yes,
Which
it
I
is.
fully expected. But yeah, I'm playing this in preparation because Black Friday there is going to be big sales on a lot of recent games that came out. I think Best Buy had Assassin's Creed Origins for $35, and Wolfenstein is going to be $25.
Oh, wow.
So that's a good deal.
That is a good deal on both of those.
And I everyone's talking about Wolfenstein, and I'm curious to play it and see it and come to my own conclusions about it. So I'm finally going to go through the first one because I've been meaning to for a long time. I just never got around to it.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. What are you playing that on? PlayStation 4?
Yep.
Okay. And anything else?
That's pretty much it. Looking forward to Battleship Brigade, which comes out on Monday.
Battleship Grave?
Battle Chef Brigade.
Oh, Battle Chef Brigade.
Oh.
That's that.
It's a 2D side-scrolling monster hunting where you get the ingredients and then bring it back and do Iron Chef, but with like match 3 puzzles.
I was gonna say cartoony, but that is not fair. Like that's not the right term. It gives the wrong impression, and it's not anime either. It's just.
It has kind of like that kind of art style.
But it's like a hand-drawn art style, really.
Hand-drawn animated 2D action RPG puzzle chef game.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how much depth the full game just has.
Yeah.
Because if it's, I don't know. I'm also kind of okay if it's just running into the forest, fighting something, coming back and cooking it. But I also feel like there's the opportunity to tell some sort of a story.
It seems like there's definitely a focus on narrative.
Yeah.
There's cutscenes and dialogue and stuff.
So that's interesting. What's that coming out for?
That's going to be on PC and Switch. I'm not sure about anything else.
I'm assuming you're getting it for Switch?
Yep.
Yeah, because why not? Switch has so many good things on it. Speaking of Mario, I recently beat Mario.
Mm-hmm.
And
by beat, you mean you got the credits?
Yeah, there's so much more just there. So
Yeah.
I think I'm going to put it aside, though, because I started out in some of the post-credit stuff. And it was challenging in good ways, but challenging in ways where I was like, well, I don't need to do this right now.
They give you a reason to go back through each world.
Mm-hmm.
There's a specific goal that they add to each world.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth going through and doing those just as like a nice epilogue.
Yeah. It's how much further have you played since the credits?
I think I'm 100 moons or so away from the bonus stage that opens after the first.
Bonus.
Okay, so you beat the game, it opens up. There's a world
Yes.
that you go to,
Right.
and then there's a certain amount of moons to open up another world.
Uh-huh.
I opened up that world, and then there's another final world after that, and I think I'm like 100 something moons away from that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just in the first world that you unlock after getting credits.
Mm-hmm.
Final sequence of that game is
It's
pretty
great.
great. Yeah.
It's amazing.
At first, I was like, "Oh, this is just gonna be." I wasn't sure what people were talking about because you get in there and it looks like a standard. Looks like a standard fight. Looks like the same kind of fight you did every other time.
Yeah, but it's not. I was telling Mike, there's 3 things in that game that I don't think people should have spoiled for them.
And I don't think that they have been. So.
Yeah, there's one is I think the final sequence.
Yeah.
One is the bonus you get for beating the game.
Yeah.
And one is a boss fight during the game. That's kind of unexpected.
Okay.
I don't know what that last one is, but
well, that's
it's something you wouldn't expect in a Super Mario game.
Okay.
That you would be doing.
Okay.
Yep, I will be getting to it soon. I'm very excited.
Yeah, but overall, great game. It's there's so many good games that came out this year.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if Mario won a bunch of things on this upcoming
oh man, it's gonna be
end of the year season.
It's gonna be tough between that and Zelda.
I mean, I don't think it'll be that tough. Personally.
Not personally, but I mean, if we had a staff, it would probably be tougher.
If we had a staff, it would be easier because they would do a lot of the work, and we would just sit back and talk
and laugh.
If only.
Have them bring us sandwiches.
So yeah, Switch has been doing great. We were talking about whether or not it would get a price cut, and you guys, Aaron was like, "No way. Why?"
No, there's no.
Right. Well, every kid wants a Switch right now. Why would you? Why would you say knock $40 off of that?
I mean, Aaron came over yesterday, the day before this recording, and I got a chance to play Doom on the Switch, which I'm sure you guys talked about last week.
Yeah.
And it was delightful, and it made me want to play Doom again because that game is great, and I was very surprised how smooth it was. You know, I thought lack of 60 frames, you know, maybe would be slow, but it was didn't drop a beat. I'm not used to the controls at all, so I was like flailing around, but I was still having a lot of fun, and I'd start getting used to it more towards the end. But man, that game's so good.
I am almost tempted to try Skyrim on the Switch because it sounds like that's actually a great way to play that game if you don't care about mods and things like that.
Skyrim's pretty good.
It's a game that you can really take advantage of the versatility of the Switch and do a little bit here and there and then take it with you and play Skyrim on the go, which is something that's brand new.
Yeah.
I mean, Skyrim
but playing it on the go is brand new.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, but Skyrim is really good. It's my favorite Elder Scroll game, and honestly, if I had a Switch, I would seriously consider getting it.
So I consider picking up Skyrim sometime, but there's also Skyrim VR, or the PlayStation VR that just came out.
Oh yeah.
And that looks really good too.
Is that just Skyrim in VR, or is it?
It is just Skyrim, but
my gosh.
in VR.
That would be cool.
The entirety of Skyrim.
Wow. Yeah, that would be cool.
And I was watching people play it, and it uses the move controllers so you can dual wield swords and stuff.
Huh.
And just go up to people and just shake your arms around, you know,
The
stab
combat
him
will
and shred
actually
him.
be good.
See, that's maybe there because Skyrim. Every time I've seen it, it's not my kind of game. Everybody knows that. If I were to say, man, maybe I should pick up Skyrim, people would be like, no, don't do that. You would just hate it. But maybe like Skyrim VR, like that's kind of neat.
Well, yeah. The thing about it is like, it's such a well realized area where people. It seems like people actually live,
Right.
and in VR, you could get fully immersed and like spend 10 minutes inside a house looking at every single thing.
It's essentially the promise of VR that's never been realized because nobody's had the money to make a game like that.
Yeah.
Except they already made a game like that, so why don't we just make it VR? Like that's essentially what happened here.
And it sounds like they did a good job fitting VR into the world because it has like a locomotion where I think there's different options, but there's a button that you can hold down and you'll just move forward in the direction you're looking.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it works perfectly well.
That's a good solution for motion because that is the number one hang up is if you can move yourself in a direction that you're not looking, you're more likely to just vomit all over yourself. So
But there's 2 versions of Skyrim I'm tempted to check out.
Man.
How many years ago was that game put out?
2011.
Like 6 years or something?
Yeah, 2011 is when it came out.
Most enduring game.
Yeah.
Skyrim.
It's sold a lot, and it's very, very well loved and remembered.
Highest number of platforms. Skyrim.
Yeah, probably.
Like that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Speaking of open world games, Horizon Zero Dawn is a game that I've been playing because I bought it a long time ago, and I bought it shortly after Zelda, and I finished Zelda, and then I was like, cool, let me pick up Horizon, and then I played a little bit of Horizon, and I said, this is not. Let me put this down. Let me find something else. 'Cause I don't think that's a good transition. I don't think you should go from Zelda to Horizon because then you just get frustrated by the lack of freedom, I think, because it's very much a gated, you can't go over here until this gets done and that kind of
It's
thing.
very different from Zelda, and if you get your expectations set in a certain way, it's not. I don't think it's fair to Horizon to go from Zelda right to it.
And I'm not an open world guy. I pretty much hate open world games, I think. Every one I've tried to play, I've not come away with a good impression of them. So that being said, I mean, I've been playing and liking Horizon. I still play it wrong. Let me tell you, I think I finished the game because I have maxed out all of my inventory slots, which has been my goal since I started really playing it again. I said, oh, you can collect things and increase the amount you can hold. Great. And then I upgraded one and I said, oh, you can do this again. I was like, oh. So I have hunted every animal, living animal. You know what? Robots, don't really hunt them. I usually leave them alone. They're fine.
You're fighting in the meat space.
Yeah, no. Boars, foxes, raccoons, rats,
Josh is after blood.
geese, all those animals. Those are mine. Fish, shooting fish out of the water. No sport in it. There's no sport. Those guys that can't get away. They don't even know you're hunting them.
Aloy has the most advanced technological, like social media or whatever that thing is, the focus. It allows her to understand the machines. And what does Josh use? Oh, I can see where the fish are in the river.
And then I can mark them, and then I can shoot them with arrows.
Yeah.
I am quite efficient at killing in that game. Even humans. Humans are also a kind of meat. I can kill those pretty efficiently, too.
Humans are among the least interesting things to fight in that game because they're very dumb.
Yeah, they're just kind of like walk up to you, and you're like, hey, and they get an arrow in the face is what happens to them.
Well, and have you learned the whistle skill yet?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. So once you learn that, you can just hide in the grass and just whistle, and they'll be like, huh? and they'll like walk over, ignoring the pile of bodies that you've already brought over there, and then you can just silent strike them.
Yeah, let me tell you what skills I've picked up: scavenging, gathering,
Okay.
skinning, which is a new skill for the new expansion that I get to pick up. Like not skinning, but like a master carver or something like that.
Yeah.
I have pretty much every skill it would take to harvest from dead bodies what I need to fill my pouches. And so I've beaten the game. I did that this morning.
Good job.
Got all those check marks. Feel pretty accomplished. And I think I'm ready to leave the area, the first area.
Aloy gets the special title of Seeker, in which she uses it to seek random goods to stuff in her pockets.
Gets the title of Seeker. I've completed some of the main missions. I've gone up to, so I have gone outside the Embrace.
Okay.
But like just the one that's open to the right, like in the northeast. Generally where the expansion stuff is, I believe, because there's a quest mode marker up there.
Yeah.
That's like on the map, and it says new quest. And I said, oh, they're all new quests. Thank you, though. Now I know which one is the Frozen Wilds section. But one thing was weird, and I was talking to you about this. There's a section in that area on the far east where you can just start walking. It's flat plains. There's a ocean on your left, and then just forest to the right. And you start walking through that forest. I was like, oh, what's over here? It's not revealed. This is going to be interesting. And I go past all these packs of roving robots that are there to probably keep you away, I think. You're supposed to stay away. I go past all of them, and then it says, turn around, or we're going to reload you and put you at your save point. And I said, why? So it's like I was playing a demo, except this is the full game with the expansion.
That's weird.
It is weird. It's super weird.
No,
And
I'm saying you're weird.
no, I'm not weird. This was like flat area that you could just keep walking.
I know, but
And it was interesting. It was covered in these robots. There's a robot I've never seen before that was over there. The freeze belly whack.
Oh, the bellowbacks.
Bellowbacks. The freeze one, I've never seen a freeze one. So I was over there, and like there was things that made it look interesting. There was different color vegetation and stuff on the map. So I was like, okay, what's over here? And I went over there. I saw a lockjaw or whatever the alligator thing is, and some birds, which were not in the area that I'd seen. And then I start walking, and it says, turn around.
That space was reserved for future content.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, and that's what my second thought was. Is like, is there just going to be another DLC down here? Is that why?
I hope so.
But I don't know. It was kind of off-putting because I was like, you could just put another gate here. Because gates are something that I have not been able to just go around. Like, I actually have to complete this Embrace quest of getting rid of corruption before they open those gates.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have done something like that. Like, I don't, that was so weird. But the NPCs are boring. And
What do you mean, like in narratively or just
everybody I've run into? They're like, hey, we're useless. And you say, oh, okay, well, great. And they're like, yeah, we could do this thing, but we can't. And maybe you could do it because we didn't like you up until a minute ago. And you're like, all right, sure. And then you go do it. And then you come back and they're in the same spot. I don't know. There's the lack of...
That happens less in the expansion.
That's good.
So they may have taken feedback. I never noticed it because that's all open world games.
I think that's why I don't like open world games.
I mean, even Final Fantasy, 15, it's all fairly static.
Yeah, but Final Fantasy 15, I think, has a better conceit for it. Like, if there's a guy who got attacked at his cart, and he's like, the bandits went that way. You're like, come on, guy, let's go get those bandits. And he's like, no, I'm gonna stand right here until you return. You're like, all right, sure. Oh, it's amazing. You fought all those things by yourself? I was like, yeah, I could have used some help. It was real rough, but I understand. Whereas in Final Fantasy 15, you've got the guys at the diners that give you hunting quests, and it's like, well, that's what they're doing. You're asking for it. People aren't being inconvenienced and then requiring you to help them out necessarily most of the time. One difference would be like the main hunter guy does say, hey, can you go get these bog tags for me? But he looks busy as opposed to this guy standing by a broken cart. And he's like, I gotta stand next to this broken cart. And you're like, all right.
There's a lot of bandits, Josh. If he leaves, he could steal his stuff.
They already stole his stuff. That's what I'm going to go get.
They could steal his broken cart, and then he's got nothing.
Yeah, but it just makes everybody
Probably
just
also
seems-
isn't a fighter, which is why he got stolen from in the first place. So why
everybody's a coward. That's what it is. That's what gets me.
It's a rough world.
Yeah, I went to go get some boar skins and I lost my ring. Do you think you can go get that for me? It's like, come get the stupid ring. Come with me. That's
You get into the more interesting stuff in a bit.
yeah. Story wise, I hope there's something
There is.
more interesting than increasing the size of my storage.
There is. It's a good piece of science fiction.
I don't know. It's hard to top because apparently that's what drew me in.
Storage capacity.
Storage capacity and increasing it.
Yes.
But yeah, how did you like the Frozen Wilds expansion?
I mean, I loved it. I finished it right before recording this podcast, and I mean, I bought it for $15, and I got 20 hours out of it. I guess it's $20 normally, but if you pre-ordered, it was $15.
And it's 15 right now because it's on sale.
Oh, it's on. Okay,
That's why I bought it.
Okay, and yeah, it's super high level, content. It takes place before the end of the game, so Horizon doesn't have post game stuff. What happens is you beat it, and then it kind of like resets you to right before the final quest, so you can just kind of run around and mop things up that you didn't finish.
Like Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah. And so Frozen Wilds takes place way up in the north. It's a brand new area of the map. It takes place in Yellowstone, which is really cool. So I found Old Faithful and different hot springs. And I don't want to go too much into the story because you definitely have to have played the entirety of the original game for this to really, sink in and stuff. But it's a very good story. It's a lot more personal, and it explores one of the different tribes that didn't really get a lot of the spotlight, the Banuk. Because they really go into like the Oseram, and they go into the Karja for sure, and the Nora, and you like run into Banuk, but they're usually pretty isolated, and you can kind of pick up on their culture. But this one, it's all them, so it's like 20 hours. You get to learn all about them, and they're, fascinating. And yeah, the story was actually pretty touching towards the end, and I was really, really, really sad when I got my all quest completed trophy, because I knew that there was no more world for me to conquer. So I was like Alexander, and I wept bitter tears because this might be the last time I have reason to go back to Horizon, because I think this might be the only expansion pack.
I don't know. I found a
You
spot
did?
that
Well,
told me
sure.
to turn around.
I mean, it would be nice if they did. But I know that there's a new edition of Horizon coming out next month in December that's called the Complete Edition, and it has Frozen Wilds in it.
Oh, that's not a good sign.
So that's where I think it might not be a good sign. But like, yeah, I took a whole bunch of new screenshots and just amazing snow in it. And it gets so like thick sometimes that like, one thing in Horizon, when it turns nighttime, it's basically as bright as this day. It just has like a blue filter. Now, because of the snow and how thick the trees are, it's like pitch black. It's like Final Fantasy 15 black, where you're just like, oh man, I don't want to be out here.
That is something
dark.
I like about Final Fantasy 15, where it's like, oh, it's nighttime. I'm not going to go outside.
I mean, the robots or the machines don't get any harder or anything,
Right,
but
but
it is cool that they actually kind of did that. And probably my favorite like side quest characters out of the entire game, like some genuinely like funny and kind of like moving moments with the newer characters. So yeah, it was good.
I will say that I'm glad that I put the expansion on, because it lets you can pick up things while mounted as a skill now.
Yeah, that was I saw in the original game. I never got on a mount ever. For the same reason why I never got on one in Zelda, because there's so much stuff that you want to go and gather and collect that it's like I'm just gonna get on my horse and then jump off and then get back on my horse and then jump off, and it's just like, I'll forget it. Like Aloy runs fast enough, Link ran fast enough. It's like I don't need to ride a stupid horse.
Yeah.
So, but now that they've added that, I was like riding around on my mount like all the time, and I was just like, I'll scoop that up.
So Horizon, it's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see if I finish it.
92 hours is my end clock time.
See, I'm already 22 hours in,
Wow.
and I've done nothing. So we'll see.
92 hours, and I was legitimately sad when I turned it off after I finished everything.
What else you been up to, Mike?
Well, I've been playing this awesome Star Wars game that I've been looking forward to all year called Battlefront 2. Oh,
Well, that doesn't sound right.
I didn't play it at all.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so I know on this podcast we typically don't like to talk about news, but this thing has to be talked about, okay? And especially for me, because it is Star Wars, it is like my favorite franchise. I'm wearing a freaking Star Wars shirt right now. Like 90% of my wardrobe is Star Wars shirts, and then like the
That's
other
true.
10% is like see-through fishnet shirts. And
Unfortunately, also true.
and so, you know, Star Wars Battlefront, the first one the 2015 one, it came out. I enjoyed it. It didn't make my top 5 because it just kind of lacked just a certain something, like very good foundation. I could see where they could go with it. And, you know, still got all the DLCs and played a bunch with my buddy. So when they revealed this one, you know, you could see the improvements. They promised like 3 times as much content, which they delivered on. A story mode, you know, like more offline, you know, couch co-op stuff. A bunch of new maps. You can play through all 3 eras, so it's not just original trilogy. They said they improved the gunplay, so I'm like, oh man, they're hitting all the right notes. I'm super excited about this. And then on top of that, they're like, oh, and by the way, we're not going to repeat the mistake of the first one, where we sell DLC packs and thus splitting the community. We're going to give that stuff out for free. And I'm like, all right. And then they're like, and to offset it, we'll do loot boxes. I'm like, oh, whatever, you know, I don't have that much of an issue with loot boxes because I kind of like them in Overwatch.
I don't mind wearing a different type of helmet.
Yeah, it's like if they have like Ralph McQuarrie concept art Luke Skywalker or something as like a skin for Luke, yeah, that's cool. You know, it's like I probably will never buy it, but you know, there's always
There's
whale.
all sorts of outfits for all those different characters.
Yeah, like just all sorts of stuff that you can do, and you could get like voice packs. Like maybe you could get the Kevin Smith Stormtrooper voice pack. Who knows? And so yeah, I was like, you know, microtransactions. It's kind of like, well, if they're not going to give us paid DLC, then I'm fine with the loot box. So then, like, more and more news started coming out about like what these loot boxes is, and it all kind of came to a head when the beta came out a few months ago, and it was revealed exactly just how sinister these loot boxes are. And so basically, like in a competitive shooting game, you pretty much want to be on even ground. Like nothing's worse than like, oh, I died because somebody obviously just spent a bunch of more money and was overpowered and we got into a 1v1 and he killed me. Like that just sucks. And so far, like most companies have avoided that. Or if they have done it, then the game itself is free, like a mobile game or something. Well, this game is $60 and they threw in all of that mobile pay to win stuff. And it is gross. So like there's like the interceptor starfighter. So that includes like A-wings, V-wings, and TIE interceptors. So each class or something has like these different unlocks that you can put star cards in there, and each star card has 4 levels of rarity. And of course, the top rare is the most overpowered one, the one that you want to get. And so, like to give you an example, so this interceptor class, some of the cards, the level 4 cards, is turn 25% faster, shoot twice as fast, do 40% more damage, take less damage, double your shields. Like that's with no drawback. You know, like I can play a game like Rainbow Six Siege where I have gun attachments. So it's like I can have like this extended barrel that'll let me shoot faster or shoot longer, a further distance, but my rate of fire will be lower or it'll do less damage. So there's always like a trade-off. There's no trade-off. It's just raw power. And I mean, it's rotten through the entire system. So this is the entire progression system. So like, you know, you play like Call of Duty, you get on Call of Duty and, you know, you get an XP for every kill and then for winning a match and then you level up and then you unlock more stuff. It's like, oh, here's this gun, or if you play, and then like if you play a gun, you can unlock new stuff for that gun, like you can level up. That's a fun progression system. That's how most games are. It's something that you can achieve. It's the carrot on the stick. It makes you want to keep playing. The only progression is the star cards. You don't even level up except through the power of your star cards.
Which you can't buy individually. You have to get from the loot boxes.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, the only way you can get them is through randomized loot boxes. And there's even 3 tiers of those. There's like the hero loot box and the starfighter loot box and the trooper loot box. And like the trooper one is the one you want the most because that's the one that's the, you know, the role that you're going to be playing as the most is the stormtroopers. Those cost 4,000 credits. Okay. This is what you use to buy these things. You earn those through winning matches and stuff. Your average credit earning per 10 to 15 minute match is 250. And you need 4,000 to buy one of these. And it's random. And they're stuffed with things like emotes for classes you don't even use, or victory poses. So oftentimes you're not even getting things. Like if I wanted to play like the heavy, and I work, it's like 8 hours or something. Somebody calculated it out. It's like 8 hours to get a loot box if you're just playing a game, you know, through normal gameplay. So I'm playing the heavy for 8 hours, and I finally get my loot box, and it opens up, and only 3 cards come out, and it's like, officer pose, Ray victory pose, and I guess it wouldn't be a Ray victory pose, but it's like 2 victory poses, and like, I don't know, some attachment card for some class, recon class or something I would never play. Like, that's so bad. That's so bad. It's so, and here's the other thing is too, it's like when you die, when another player kills you, it shows you what cards they have. Mm-hmm. So you're like, oh man, that guy's got the fully upgraded thermal detonator. Well, he just killed 3 of us with 1 of them. Hot dang, I'm going to go and buy loot boxes so I can maybe upgrade my thermal detonator. The thing is like the pricing structure. So you buy crystals. So this is another thing with this game. There's like all these different currencies, which just makes it super confusing. So you go into the PlayStation Store or wherever you're playing it, and you buy crystals. So for $10, you can get 8,000 crystals.
Well, not right now.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. You can buy these crystals, and then you go in and you can buy the loot boxes. Again, the trooper loot box, 4,000 crystals. So for $10, you buy 2 boxes.
Yeah.
Like, that is insane. Like, Overwatch has loot boxes, and I'll grant you, I don't want them in there either, but at least, like, Blizzard is pretty generous about giving them to you. Like, during the Halloween event, I never spent a dime, and I opened, like, 30 loot boxes.
Yeah.
Just by playing and doing the arcade stuff.
There's, you know, outfits and things like that and skins in Overwatch that I want when they come out for, you know, events. But it's never like I'm missing out on something if I don't get them.
Right. It's not like there's a loot box that you're going to open that says, oh, by the way, your Tracer now has 5 teleport pips. She does 40% more damage and all damage against her is reduced by 50%.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of the great thing about the cosmetic stuff is it's cosmetic, makes no effect on the game. If you don't get it, you'll probably still get to see it. I mean, one, you get to see it in your inventory. You can look at it and be like, oh, it's cool. And then you'll see other people have it. And you're like, oh, that's cool. That's that thing I want.
Yeah.
I get to enjoy it during this match while they waste me. But, it'd be nice someday to have that skin.
I mean, I wanted the Dragon Symmetra skin. I didn't get it, and I could have bought loot boxes, but I was like, well, I wanted to buy Assassin's Creed and Wolfenstein, so I'll just skip buying loot boxes and maybe I'll earn it. And I didn't. That's okay. It's not, I played Overwatch like 4 times this week, so it's not like
You're
it
not
affected
missing
me.
out on the new character put out.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
New character in a loot box that you can only get.
But like Battlefront is based around to either make you jealous and want to buy loot boxes, and then if you are the fool that went out and bought $100 of loot boxes, then everybody else that didn't buy becomes your fodder. They become your reward for buying a bunch of loot boxes. So to further illustrate how bad this is, I watched a video on YouTube where a guy was playing Heroes versus Villains mode, and he had Boba Fett with no star cards. Okay, so Boba Fett has one of his abilities is Rocket Barrage. So he's flying around in this match, and he's shooting his Rocket Barrage on guys, and it's doing maybe a quarter health of damage, So then he goes and equips the 4-level Rocket Barrage. And not only is it essentially one-shotting the other opponents, but he can sometimes even take out 2 or 3 with a single barrage. That's how bad this is. I mean, how did they let it get to this point? And that's not even to talk about like all the other stuff, like you have to unlock the heroes with the same credits that you buy loot boxes. So you're either getting heroes or loot boxes, and the heroes cost $15,000 for the most expensive, and $5,000 for the base.
Yeah, that's the new price.
That's
right?
the new price. Yeah, originally they were $60,000, which is super insidious because when the reviewers were at the review event, they were $5,000.
Oh,
So the reviewers could unlock them quicker.
Yeah, well, so they could review.
And then, of course, this had a meltdown, and so EA, oh my gosh. So people found out about this. Major gaming websites reported on it. So EA comes out, and they're trying to save face, and they're like, oh, man, yeah, that is a little expensive. So we're going to put Luke and Vader, the characters that you want to play as, instead of being $60,000, we're going to make them $15,000. So everyone's like, oh, I guess that's not too bad. And then in kind of like out of the corner of their mouth, and they're like, oh yeah, but we're also going to lower rewards for single player content. So, and then, oh my gosh. And then, so like, yes, you can earn credits from single player. So originally when you beat the campaign, you got 20,000 credits. They reduced that down to 5,000 because they're like, well, we want you to spend those credits on just buying, Aiden Versio or whatever her name is, the character who's from the campaign.
Wouldn't it be great if you just unlocked her when you beat the single
That'd
player?
be nice.
Josh, you speak too much logic. And then there's like this offline couch co-op arcade mode. It's supposed to be a lot of fun. Well, they cap you at 500 credits a day. And so you have to wait
14 hours.
Yeah, come back in another 14 hours and you can earn another 500. Mind you, Trooper crates cost 4,000. So there was an Ask Me Anything on Reddit with DICE and the developer of the game. And so somebody goes in and it says, why did you guys put a cap on this, on the single player offline stuff? And they're like, well, we don't want to upset the delicate balance of people exploiting credits offline by playing offline and then getting a bunch of loot crates and then, upsetting the balance that we've set, by getting all these power cards from offline play. Okay, so if they're that worried about the balance of the cards, are they going to put a limit on how much money I can spend on their crates? Like, it's so dumb. It's so hypocritical. And they're not concerned at all. They just are like, oh, man, we don't want you to fast track to buy more crates. Okay, so this has had such an epic meltdown of the likes I have not seen in games in a long time that this controversy went on CNN. The Washington Post just made an article about it today. There was Wall Street Journal. Disney started getting thrown under the bus. So like on Twitter, when you hashtag Disney, the number one hit was Disney gambling. And people were getting upset at Disney saying, you guys are encouraging gambling to children, which they pretty much are. I mean, that is what the loot box at its bare basics is. It is gambling. You are spending money to try to gain a reward that is out of your control.
And what's interesting,
I don't think it's gambling.
well, I think it is gambling, but I don't think it's fair to say that Disney's encouraging the gambling so much as that it's supported by not saying you can't do this to
If
EA.
this is gambling, then like those toys you get out of the machines with the toys and the balls would be gambling. I feel like
It is gambling.
It's the same thing, like blind boxes or packs of cards. Because you're spending money, you're always getting something. You're never spending money and not getting anything from it. But that's beside the point.
That's the debate for another thing. The important thing is that Disney did get linked to this because Star Wars is a movie that is geared, for kids. And so I went to their Twitter page under hashtag Disney, and it was a barrage of angry parents saying, how dare you, Disney, introduce these systems and expose my children to this kind of microtransaction and this kind of gambling. So Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, called the CEO of EA and allegedly told them to, what the heck are you doing? Because a few hours after that phone call, the store turned off. You cannot buy the crystals with real money anymore. And so then EA puts out this, or DICE puts out this message where they're like, yeah, we turned them off. We kind of realized that we screwed up. We heard you loud and clear. We're going to go back to the drawing board on this progression. And we're going to reintroduce these microtransactions in a later date. So they've essentially learned nothing. They think that this is about balance. It's not just about balance. It's about exploiting people with poor impulses and kids to buying these things. Like, well, I would never...
we don't know what they're going to change. They said they were going to change stuff, and we don't know what it's going to be, but there's little reason to give them benefit of the doubt at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if they... The thing is it's like the core of the loot box progression system at its core is just bad. Like, even if it was like really accelerated and I earned a loot box every 15 minutes after every match, I got a loot box. It's still a bad system.
Yeah.
Because it's so out of your control and it still just comes down to luck. And sure, I can break down the cards and craft things and stuff like that, but that's not fun. That's just more currencies and confusion that adds to everything. It's like, just give me a Call of Duty straightforward experience. Like, they almost had it with this game because even the reviews that are bad, if you read them, they all say what is there, the core game is fun. Campaign aside. Like, you go into a multiplayer match, it feels like Star Wars, it looks like Star Wars, it sounds like Star Wars, the guns have weight, the shooting is good, everything is good. It's just that everything around the gameplay is built into this ridiculous loot crate system. And honestly, I feel like this was a watershed moment, like in games, because gamers could have just rolled over and not done anything. Because there have been these kind of loot boxes in other games. But I think because it was tied in with Star Wars, like the biggest thing with a brand new movie coming out, So many people were excited about this. I mean, the first Battlefront sold tens of millions of copies. You know, myself included was super excited about it. That we just couldn't let them get away with it. And on top of all the other loot box shenanigans that have happened this year with Shadow of Mordor and just them being thrown in Need for Speed, just and Forza and all this other, and Madden, like even the sports games all have them now. And I think it's just reaching like a boiling point, and this is like the most mainstream like game that's, you know, even casual people were like very excited about.
Well,
And
I
it's
think
just
this is
like-
also the most egregious
Oh, it's so,
in terms of buying power, because that's not really been a normal experience in loot box. You buy options, you buy things, because cosmetic has always been the most successful, but like just straight up 4 times the power on a thing, like the Boba Fett example you gave, that's like 4 times the power in a single card, where it's like that's ridiculous.
And the what's even more ridiculous, so like those rare cards. So if you open 100 boxes, you'll get 7 to 8 rare cards.
Yep.
Out of 100 crates.
And how many rare cards exist?
I mean, 1 for every slot, 1 for every star card, because they all level up.
That's a lot.
So there's a lot. And oh man, I mean, the thing is like I still want to play it because like I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and it does look fun. Like I've been watching on Twitch, and I've been watching like IGN and you know, some of the other places stream it, and I can tell that the people who are playing it are having a lot of fun, but you cannot dismiss this gross practice of throwing loot crates in. Like I just want to play as Luke Skywalker or Yoda or Kylo Ren, and I just want to like run around and hack down stupid rebel troopers or stormtroopers or whatever, and just turn my brain off and have fun. Like the first one did that. It just needed a little bit more. And this one took like a one good step forward, and then it took like 5 steps backwards.
No, it took a good step forward off a cliff and then
Yeah.
into the water.
So anyways, yeah. And I feel sorry, like my brother, he bought it, he pre-ordered it a long time ago. This is why you don't pre-order, kids. He pre-ordered it because my friend that I play all the Battlefield games with in Rainbow, you know, he and I were going to get it, and the 3 of us were going to play together. Well, you know, my friend is the most casual, like, he's that typical gamer that everyone hates, where he's just like, I just play Call of Duty, and that's like it. Like, he doesn't follow news or anything. Like, he found out about this. Like, he was asking me about, like, I never brought it up to him. He's like, what's this about the loot crates? And I'm like, oh, yeah, let me tell you. And so he didn't buy it. And then I haven't bought it. So, but my poor brother who spent $60 is kind of like SOL. And that it sucks for him. But, you know, I would say that EA did it to him. Very easily. I blame them for everything.
So, good times at Electronic Arts. I wonder long term if there's gonna be any changes in Electronic Arts because of this.
I would be shocked if there wasn't.
I mean,
some kind of like obvious decisions that they make in light of this in games going forward.
Disney is they're evil, but they very much are protective of the public image that they've made for themselves. So like McDonald's, they did business with McDonald's for 30 or 40 years. And then once McDonald's got linked to child obesity, Disney dropped them at the snap of a finger.
Yeah.
And I would like, so far, like EA has had the Star Wars license since 2012. So they've come out with one semi-mediocre shooter with Battlefront 1. They came out with a mobile game, which actually I guess is good, but then they canceled a project that they've been working on for like 4 years, high profile project, and then they came out with this, which just has blown up in their face and has dragged everybody involved through the mud. So I would be surprised if they get to keep the Star Wars license for very much longer, because they have done nothing with it
Yeah.
in 4 years.
At the very least, it should be exclusivity should be taken away. Like, let some other people make a good game.
Yeah.
Put
5
something
years, I
out.
mean.
Put out a game.
Ugh.
Aaron,
What?
put out a game.
No.
Star Wars.
Pay
Do
me
it.
money.
This is gonna cost money. I need you to sell everything in that room.
No.
It's just indicative of just how broken like the AAA model is right now too.
Well, yeah, because they're trying to make money. They're gonna need to recoup costs in some way,
Well,
and $60 doesn't.
That's exactly the thing. It's like it doesn't, because their production budgets are just out of control, and I just think a lot of it is poor management, because like CD Projekt, granted they're in Poland so things are cheaper, but that's another lesson they could learn. They could stop developing in the Bay Area for one. And CD Projekt can come out with something like The Witcher at like a third of the cost of a Mass Effect game and be a huge hit. And they don't have to do microtransactions, because they just make a good game.
You just called them
The
microtransactions.
microtransactions.
No, yeah. Cost of games like Horizon has the Frozen Wilds as an expansion, as a DLC.
That's it.
And that's it. But that is more or less subsidizing some of the cost of the game, because it requires a lot less resources to create a DLC expansion. And so that helps recoup the cost, the extra $20, instead of charging $80 for the game when it first comes out and putting in the Frozen Wilds. They recoup that cost by saying, hey, pay us $20 later and we'll give you that DLC that we're making.
I feel like if you make a $60 game and you are really counting on microtransactions in the style of something like Battlefront, then your business model is not sustainable.
Right, that's not gonna work.
You're doing something wrong.
Yeah. And so Overwatch is a much better way of doing it, because they say, okay, here's the game, you can buy it, and then buy clothes. Like if you could have bought loot boxes that had the possibility of opening up character skins for like you still play the game to unlock Luke and Vader and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the loot boxes had different Luke skins from different movies and different Vader. Well, there's only one Vader skin, really.
Well, there's like the concept art Vaders and stuff.
Yeah, but like that would have been, I feel, way more successful.
Yeah.
Because there's adults who have plenty of money to burn who would love to have some of those costumes. There's no change in the gameplay. Nobody would have jumped in and got destroyed immediately from a power balance and say, well, that guy just bought a bunch of loot boxes. That's why he destroyed me. It wouldn't be there. It would just be, look at that cool Vader costume.
I mean, some of their excuse too, like, has been, oh, well, we want people to keep coming back and to feel a sense of pride and accomplishment when they spend the $60,000 or 60,000 points on unlocking Vader. And it's like, man, that's such horse crap. If your game is good, people will come back. Like, Overwatch has no progression system. I mean, you could say the loot boxes, but it's not really a progression system.
Yeah, you don't get anything from that.
I have like
Or
250.
but that's
Yeah, well, there's that, but it's like I've played that game for 250 hours and I've barely even touched competitive. It's just because it's a fun game.
Yeah.
Like that's why I come back. Like Quake and Unreal Tournament and all those were popular for years because they were just good. If you just make your game good, people will go and play it for a long time.
Yeah, and then if you throw some cosmetic things in there, people will be like, yeah.
So icing on the cake.
Yeah, I'll pay $20 and hopefully get like something cool. Even if it was just emotes and they're like good emotes. And you're like, all right, let me get some of those emotes.
Man, EA has had quite the year with Mass Effect Andromeda being a bomb, Need for Speed blowing up in the ratings and being bomb. And now this.
What was the last good EA game that came out?
Dead Space 2. Came out in 2010.
Well, I think that pretty much covers everything we wanted to cover today.
Yep.
GameRushmore.onsouthernroad.com for our show. At Game Rushmore on Twitter, GameRushmore@gmail.com for questions, comments. On Southern Road on Facebook. On Southern Road on YouTube. And from there you can see Laser Ramon, where Aaron has reviews and walkthroughs. And
Whatever comes up.
whatever he feels like making. But it's good, so go watch it. Yeah, I guess that's it today.
Don't believe EA's lies. The microtransactions are turned off, but they will bring them back. They've promised it.
Go buy some loot boxes, everybody. Have a good night. All right, I'm gonna head over there
Okie doke.
after I stop this and export it.
I am going to
All right.
play Mario tonight.